Entering the week of June 14, 2026, the geopolitical climate is marked by a palpable sense of friction. Across international borders and economic zones, collective sentiment is reacting to rapidly shifting power dynamics, creating an atmosphere of widespread caution. This local tension exists within the broader macro phase of the current cosmic egg cycle. We are navigating a defined period of institutional restructuring, where older frameworks of authority are being actively tested by new models of organization. This system operates as a tool for pattern recognition, framing the celestial environment as a symbolic map of psychological and social currents playing out on Earth. The shifting public mood of this specific week aligns with the angular relationships forming between these planetary bodies. As the geometry in the sky changes, we see a corresponding shift in how populations respond to pressure and process information. These angular relationships represent distinct environmental conditions. By reading the degrees and distances between these archetypal points, we can identify which specific areas of the collective experience, such as trade, diplomacy, or social bonding, are currently subject to tension or harmony. The primary challenge for the collective this week is maintaining objectivity. As institutional power dynamics shift, the resulting friction tends to generate reactive, emotionally driven responses across global populations. Understanding this celestial geometry allows us to observe these behavioral trends from a detached perspective. By tracking the cyclical nature of these events, we can navigate the week's collective anxiety without absorbing the surrounding fatalistic narratives. The pressure currently testing global institutions is governed symbolically by the Saturn cycle. As an archetype, Saturn points to boundaries, contraction, and the strict discipline required to maintain structural integrity. This week, the prevailing geometry features a square, a 90-degree angle between two planetary bodies, representing friction that forces developmental action. This precise angle correlates to structural stress tests in global governance. The tension transferring between nodes mirrors the gridlock challenging international bodies. This is further complicated by an opposition, a 180-degree polarity, where 2 points pull against each other across the chart. Symbolically, this highlights the current ideological standoffs and the stark division of institutional power. These angles of friction are built into the system by design. They force weak points to the surface, demanding that global institutions address their vulnerabilities and fortify their foundations, rather than relying on outdated protocols. Parallel to this institutional pressure is a distinct shift in the messenger layer. This is the domain of Mercury, the symbolic engine of language, trade, and the collective nervous system. Mercury's current transit is highly active, accelerating the speed at which global media is disseminated. This rapid velocity alters social sentiment by forcing populations to process complex geopolitical data at an unnatural pace. The exact transit relationship forming this week creates a high probability for signal distortion. Facts are likely to be obscured by the sheer volume of competing narratives, resulting in a clouded, highly reactive news cycle. Navigating this specific energetic weather requires a conscious behavioral response. Individuals must actively slow down their consumption of information, applying rigorous discernment to separate verified truth from noise. Recognizing this temporary period of communication distortion serves as a crucial defense mechanism. It prevents the individual from overreacting to misunderstood data and ensures that decision-making remains grounded in reality. While the structural and informational layers experience friction, the Venus cycle offers a contrasting dynamic. Beyond romance, Venus governs aesthetics, economic value systems, and the underlying mechanisms of social bonding. The active geometry here is a trine, a 120-degree angular relationship creating a smooth harmonic pathway, allowing energy and social movements to synthesize with ease. During this week, these harmonic transits are facilitating quiet but resilient pockets of unexpected social bonding and cross-border economic cooperation. This cooperative momentum stands in direct contrast to the heavy institutional friction marked by Saturn. While high-level governance is locked in opposition, grassroots cultural and financial networks are finding efficient ways to connect and support one another. These Venus-driven harmonies act as a vital pressure release valve. They ensure that even as the upper levels of global architecture undergo severe stress tests, the foundational social cohesion of the collective remains intact. When we synthesize these three sectors, institutional boundaries, information distortion, and collective values, a cohesive weekly archetype emerges. The overlapping transits create internal equilibrium. The friction of the squares is continuously neutralized by the trine-supportive energy, preventing extreme systemic volatility. Viewing the week through this lens replaces reactive uncertainty with a structured understanding of the current. Within this framework, structural tension becomes a functional requirement of the cycle, allowing the observer to maintain a stable perspective despite macro volatility. Within this esoteric worldview, planetary cycles are entirely symbolic. They represent environmental weather patterns, offering a map of potential behaviors and tendencies, rather than dictating outcomes. To utilize this map effectively, the observer must maintain a quiet detachment. By tracking the macro dynamics as moving pieces of celestial geometry, you can read the currents of collective pressure without absorbing them. Applying this insight means watching the week's geopolitical developments with patience. Allow the institutional stress tests to play out, verify information before reacting, and lean into the areas where social cooperation is flowing naturally. Reading the geometry of meaning transforms abstract anxiety into conscious, grounded navigation. It demonstrates the utility of astrology as an intellectual framework for understanding the rhythm of human behavior.